Okay. Hi, everybody. I feel like it's been a week when you're trying to do the simplest tasks and you can't get your mind to concentrate on doing them. But they're things you maybe like doing or are used to doing, so a routine, but you just find a way to maybe do you wait last minute to do the thing or just dilly-dallying. I Who knows? But that's what my week has been like with trying to find time to record. There's been just a lot going on and work's been pretty busy. So by the time I'm done, been a little drained. Work is in my normal 9 to 5 job. There's been a lot of just things going on. So nothing bad, but just lots of work. So it's taken me a few days to finally get around to recording this, but it is currently Friday and I am contemplating buying Beyoncé tickets to see her in LA last minute because I don't want to miss her and haven't seen her in 7 years and keep going back and forth on whether or not I should buy tickets. But decided today I need it and I deserve it. And I work so hard and I need to treat myself still to things, even though I do it regularly because, there is different scales and ways that you can treat yourself. And there's different occasions that you're doing it. So I feel like it's just been a busy summer with the move and then my birthday and, Marco's birthday coming up and just lots of things that unfortunately at times cost money. So it's been trying to find that balance of, treating myself because I feel like I do that pretty frequently. Um, and this guilt of oh, am I indulging too much? That's just been a thought that I've been, jumps around occasionally in my head, this past summer. Not a bad thought, but definitely a thought just to keep me balanced maybe, or just I'm experiencing these new things that are life's happening and they're things that I haven't done before, so I feel like I'm just getting used to, different kinds of expenses and that's been learning for me. And all good things, but I'm super excited to see Beyoncé and can't wait to chat about it in the next episode because I definitely am gonna need to give a small review. I mean, I love her and she's such a great performer and it's gonna be a whole production, so would definitely want to share my thoughts on it. Because she's someone I do admire and look up to. And, she's a dreamer and a boss, and she is living her truth from what I see because she's doing things that she loves. And you can tell by the, quality of work and the thought and attention and detail that go into anything she does. She really gives it her all. And I definitely have always looked up to her and admired her for that. In anything she does, whether it's her fashion and her, albums, she just is so vulnerable, but in ways that I feel like people don't realize is vulnerability sometimes. Because she's strong, she can still be strong when she's vulnerable. And yeah, she's just an icon. So super excited. That is my end of my spiel. I definitely know people that also deal with this. It's you want to treat yourself so much, but also you don't want to overdo it. So there's sometimes, that fine line, but here's to finding it. Here's to Beyonce. I want to talk about, growth mindset and fixed mindset. It is leading us into this month of growth, which is the theme for September. So I feel like there's so much I could talk about growth a lot, and I do. And there's so many different layers and levels to growth, is what I'm also realizing as I continue growing and learning. And I just want to share that because I think it's interesting and it all relates to, for me at least, living my best life and living my truth. And I think that's pretty awesome that in doing that, I'm growing so much. As hard as growth can be, it's still exciting in the ways that I'm growing. So want to share that with my community and hopefully if you're listening, it inspires you to figure out ways that you might want to grow or maybe even celebrate yourself because you haven't even realized how much you have been growing. 'Cause sometimes it's growth isn't always easy and you can get caught up in that and forget that wow, through all this, you've learned and grown and how awesome is that, sometimes maybe they're good and bad experiences, but we grow nonetheless, and that is exciting. So, anywho, this week's episode is all about growth mindset versus fixed. Tips to help you stay focused and keep growing, whether it's just growing to pursue a certain goal. Maybe you're in school, or you're juggling working and honestly just being a mom and you are still trying to kind of keep growing as a person. I think that this could help someone who's looking for that. But when life gets its busiest, I feel like that's when at least I'm tested on, okay, am I really still prioritizing me or, my growth, or am I getting caught up in all these other things that are also important, but sometimes they take so much of my attention that it's like then hindering also my growth. And that's when I usually check in with myself. And I'm trying to have to check in with myself less, but it can be that finding that balance, it's an everyday thing. And part of it, the easiest way I found is just by being really intentional with my time. But that's easier said than done sometimes. So I recently took a course on all about like the artist side hustle, and it was really great. I've talked about it a bit, I think, in my last episode. If not, I mean, I'm definitely going to be sharing learnings that I had from the course throughout episodes. But there was an exercise within the lesson that was all about like planning your goals for the month at the beginning, and basically like high level goals. You break those down. So I tried it and it was really great. I did it. You start with like one goal, your main goal of a week. So I started there, what my main goal of the week was, and had a couple like main goals. And then, you break it down, like kind of what are the steps to get there. And then also write down your rewards in advance. So like for me, it was like TV time and, sweets. Like I love candy. I'm a big sweet tooth. Maybe a glass of wine, maybe actually indulging in social to share like my progress because I'm not big on posting. The podcast is my first passion and I love doing it, but it is a lot of work outside of my 9 to 5, which isn't always a 9 to 5 job. So as much as I like been wanting to post on social, it's been difficult finding time to do it after, working and then working on the podcast and just also living my life and doing fun things still. But just, giving myself to like chill and spend time with Marco and spend time with my family. So social has kind of fallen to the wayside, but I've decided to start indulging in it to share my progress as a treat for myself because it is something I do want to do. So it's funny how by writing down some rewards, it's helping me also spend time on my something I'm passionate about. So I'm very excited to hopefully start sharing more. But that was an exercise that I loved, and it basically gave me a whole game plan for the month. It took honestly probably an hour for me to do because I really had to think about all of the things each week like I wanted to accomplish based on what related to the podcast or, personally and just, um, yeah, just of all aspects. But it was super helpful and I am going to follow it. So that is also me recording today because I've been pushing it off just because it's been a busy week. And I'm like, what am I doing? So in focusing on one big goal a week, you write down your goal for the week, you schedule actually when and where you will sit down on those tasks. And, it doesn't need to be hours a day that you spend on that one thing, but kind of at least 1 hour a day can definitely help on anything that's related to your goals, can definitely help you start to achieve them. So just, think about what are your goals and, actually write it down. It's easy to forget when you just like have them in your mind and there's so many things you're juggling. And then for me, I outlined, episodes in for the month and theme. So they're excited to be talking about growth in September and just, learning and sharing things that I learn with you guys. I signed up for another course that starts mid-month that is super exciting and all kind of related to being an entrepreneur. So I am very excited to share my learnings with you. For today's episode and, talking about growth mindset and fixed mindset, I think just the concept is interesting in itself because, it sounds straightforward, but then it isn't. So, like with the growth mindset, that whole, idea of that is people that are really like trying to grow and actively grow like intentionally. And then there's people with a fixed mindset that are like more reluctant to grow, maybe very set in your ways. You don't want to change how you're doing something if you're not getting the results that you want to get. You're kind of just still repeating the results and sometimes using the circumstances that might have impacted it, as the reason why the result maybe wasn't the result that you wanted. So I feel like there's levels of that, in fixed mindset. And I've definitely been there. Or just honestly not being intentional with my time and just like doing things because I like it was what I was used to doing. And, like go to school and you get a job and you work full time and you find a great employer and ideally find something you love doing every day and you do that basically until you retire was like my mindset. Like that's kind of like what I learned, growing up from my parents because they, been in their careers their whole lives and they love it. And so I kind of just, I guess, was like, I need to find something that I love doing because then I'm going to do that for the rest of my life. I never thought of, oh, maybe I'm gonna actually end up doing something else. I feel like I used to have these dreams of if I quit my job, what would I do? And it's changed over the years. And also just like, oh, other than my job, what do I love doing? And I haven't always had the answer to that question. But the past more than a year since I started really listening to podcasts and getting into them and kind of opening my mind to manifesting and new ways of thinking, I've just grown so much and I'm grateful for it. It's super exciting. Now I have this passion that I love doing that gives me like fills my cup up so much and is something that I'm like now pouring myself into and trying to find ways that I can monetize it using all that I know, from my career and putting a lot of time and effort into something that I really love and trying to spend more time doing it and like making it so that I could do it, full time because who wouldn't want to do something that they love doing? So trying to get back to that and really like what do I want? And I would love to not have like a limited amount of vacation days or be able to just like have to work every day, 5 days a week for the rest of my life because my employer who pays my, bills, that's how things are structured. And no offense to anyone who wants to work that way, it works for plenty of people, and I know it's easier said than done, to make it happen, to work for yourself and do something you love, but I just, like, really want to spend my time doing that because I feel like I also have seen people in my life, do that and have such great lives and fulfilled lives, so I am gonna go down that path, which, you know, is this podcast, and as it grows, I'm super excited to continue sharing things that I learn and always being vulnerable because I think that, the vulnerability and the reflection is a big part of just really paying it forward and trying to be like intentional and mindful, which is what I try to be and do with this podcast is really like sharing knowledge. I think it's pretty awesome. There's so many people out there in the world that do that. Um, like that's what art is, right? For I guess is also what I'm starting to realize art is something that's beautiful and a perspective usually from that artist. And there's so many people out there in the world that share their talents and knowledge for free, especially like musicians and artists, like for this like little amount of money and currency and it also like it's everyone's doing it at different levels and capacities for money or not for money. I think it's just beautiful that people usually do it for no money, and I feel like the happiest people also end up loving it and then they're doing it for money, but they're also like paying it forward, or at least the people that I like resonate with. So I'm also just trying to be one of those people that is sharing some knowledge, not in a preachy way ever, just like sharing the good vibes and encouraging you to reflect or, take a minute to just like sit with yourself and think about your mindset. Like, which one are you? Because I'd be curious. Because I feel like I know not to brag, but I just feel like I know so many different people and walks of life and have friends from different places and also know your upbringing and your environment can really impact sometimes your mindset. Like I've been there. I was there with some of the rat race culture of New York and that was fun for a minute, but I was like, "Oh, I need to like change it up a bit. Like see new things, rebalance out some of the things that I'm doing and into tilting them in favor of getting me to that end goal that I want." And that's, like freedom and flexibility and lots of passion and life, like love and life in my life. So it may sound woo woo, but I'm leaning in and it's all good things. So, I mean, I'm like, why would you lean elsewhere? But that's just my opinion. Not everyone has to, be trying to grow it's definitely okay to like keep going with the traditions. It's just, sometimes that works for those people, but it doesn't work for everyone. So just encouraging everyone to, take some time for yourself and think about your mindset, whether you're single, in a relationship, a parent, it's like, especially for anyone, like I have a huge family and, then I have a boyfriend, I have great friends. It's like sometimes I'm like trying to be all things and I have to then take a minute to sit with myself and I'm like, okay, what do I need? What do I want? Like, are you still good with everything that's been going on? I feel like it's easy to get lost in just life. Not lost in a bad way, but just not clear on your true priorities. That definitely happens. And it's not always a bad thing. I think it's just like easy to get distracted. I've been distracted this whole summer because there's been so much going on. So distractions aren't a bad thing. Growth isn't always also so fast. It can be slow. And that's something I'm definitely going to be talking about this month as well. The concept of like slow growth and also growth when it comes to your culture is something that I've been kind of toggled with growing up because, there are certain cultural like norms and traditions. And so venturing outside of those, sometimes, like, has felt like, "Oh, am I growing, like" not in a bad way, but just I'm growing in different ways than, some of my previous generations of, like, family or even just traditional, like, of culturally, um, might be, and that's not a bad thing. Um, so, yeah, it's just interesting, how we have different cultural norms, just based on, our experiences, so just talking a little bit about that and how to manifest and also maintain momentum, like when you are on that growth path, sharing tips on how to do that and how I do that. And ways that I've found are successful to help me keep on my path and my journey for growth. So, super excited to get to share all of that with you guys and hope you're excited for the months to come. I decided to just give you a little preview. So this first episode is a little shorter than some of the other ones might be, but just testing some things out. I feel like as I'm trying to get or encourage everyone to be intentional, maybe it's helpful to of like some sprinkles of nuggets of things that I'm going to talk about to come before you actually listen. Who knows? And you might also be listening to these out of order, so you don't need to listen in the order to get something from it. But just figured it might help and get you excited of what's to come. That is September. That is this episode. It's a little shorter than some of the other ones are going to be. I just wanted to give you a taste of what's to come in September and yeah, which is lots of growth for me and hopefully, with you if you have goals and growing in mind. And I can't wait to share tips on how, I continue on my journey for growth. I'm definitely going to be talking about like slow growth goals and explaining what that like means for me and how I'm accomplishing them. And then, living your truth and, that balance of keeping your culture but also like growing with it because sometimes there are very traditional things in your culture and depending on your environments you may just be exposed to different things and grow away from them but it doesn't mean you're going away from your culture. It's just something I've been thinking about lately as I continue to grow and just how to manifest and maintain momentum because hello, I mean, the goal is, to set a goal and reach it. So, and also just to start setting some really cool goals for yourself and things you're excited to do and, taking life back in your hands. If it's not, I mean, mine's still in mine, but, there are certain times of the day where I'm like, oh, why am I still working? Hello, I need to like shift gears to doing me or why am I getting distracted on things that are not productive and not helping me reach my goals? So just sharing tips on that and yeah, lessons that I learn in from the courses that I take this month. I'm taking one course, so I'm super excited to talk about those lessons and keep sharing fun updates from my life with you and I appreciate everyone for tuning in and can't wait to be back next week. I'm feeling the desk. I think it's a winner. I hope you have a wonderful day whenever you're listening to this. Thank you again for listening in. It means a lot that, hopefully you're resonating with this content or whatever I'm saying adds an impact to your day and encourages you to grow and live your best life. So until next week, bye.
Music and editing done by Marco. You can find him at midnight, MIDNITE_mind80 on Instagram for more of his work.